also a great way for me to network, and I still have some great connections through the school and from the school. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I know that it's a great benefit because I actually I'm tied in. I have a couple friends who are currently attending and or have attended.
Shout out.
And I've seen their artistry skill and what what they're doing, and really what that LA recording school did for them.
Oh yeah.
As an artist, I know that it's it's a world renowned school.
Yes.
I know people do come from all around the world, and I do know, especially with Los Angeles, it is like we say with our title, it's that it's a certain lifestyle, and if you could come here and get that opportunity, especially to be in the music industry. I mean, you got Capitol Records down here,
right?
Atlantic Records. I mean, the show we're doing on October 7th, actually, the launch party, it's right down the street, like 2 buildings from Atlantic.
Nice.
Yeah, so
that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great influence. A lot of great stuff going on with everything, but just to dive into some questions here. So I had mentioned at the beginning of the show, guys, is Tui. He's actually an Army veteran who did a 4-year service term for our country. So I just want to thank you for a 4-year service.
Hey, no problem, man.
You got to thank your vets. Remember, they're fighting for our freedom. Everybody, the reason we can do what we can do, make music, have radio shows, is because of people like Tui. So just to get into this. During your time in the Army, how did turning to music help you cope with the challenges and stresses of military life and your everyday life?
Wow. That's a great question. It was really, really difficult for me because, as we talked about a little bit earlier, it was a major transitional period in my life. And when I went into the military, I started as an 88 mic. And for the listeners who don't know what that means, that's just a job code, which means that I drove giant trucks. And although it wasn't a terrible opportunity to learn to drive these trucks, it just wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? So what ended up happening was I was starting to get beat down by the politics and a lot of the things that are interwoven into the inner workings of the Army. Yeah. And it was soul crushing to me. And what ended up happening was I heard about what is called a soldier show in the Army, and that is an audition only process where they go around to different bases, they find talented soldiers, they recruit them for about a year or so away from their actual job, and then after that year of touring and performing around the world and at different bases, then you go back to your regular unit. So I thought to myself, if I can just get this year break, just a year of just music and fun and away from a lot of the just hard-hitting issues that I was experiencing at the time, and it didn't go well. I went to go audition for the soldier show, and the lady at the desk was like, "Are you auditioning for the soldier show?" I was like, "Yes, I'm very excited to be here." And she's like, "Oh," and right then I knew, my stomach just dropped way down. The soldier show. Yeah. So
yeah. I don't like what you just like. What do you?
You really, it's just like a compilation of songs and performances that different soldiers get drafted to do, and like I said, they tour for about a year before going back to what their regular job is. So I went to audition for that. The lady at the desk made a face, the little hiss noise, and I was like, "Oh, this is bad news. I already know this is bad news." She's like, "Sorry, but you missed the last deadline for the auditions. They're not doing any more auditions." So I was heartbroken, and I was going to walk out, and she said, "Did you hear about the Army band?" And I was like, "Ma'am, I'm a vocalist. I've played clarinet before, but I didn't feel confident enough to jump into the Army band." So I was like, "I don't think that's for me." And she's like, No, they just introduced Army vocalists." And I was like, What? And she goes, "Yeah, if you audition for the Army band as a vocalist, you can get in." So I did that. And it took a couple auditions. Not that I didn't pass. I passed the first time, but my unit didn't want to let me go. And then the second time I went, the unit was like, "All right, fine." And I basically closed out my career singing cover songs and creating for the military. For the military.
Yeah. So was that like, when you would go, would you be, would you be performing for the servicemen, like the active, like you would put on a show, like say for instance, if you're in jail or whatever, and someone's performing for the jail inmates. I know it's not jail, but it's like
it feels like it sometimes. So basically, I ended up being a singer for the military for the rest of my career and got out that way because I knew I wasn't staying.
Yeah.
but I knew I was miserable where I was.
And
The music definitely helped to alleviate a lot of the pressure. I've been diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I've had it my entire life. I've had serious bouts with suicide, and it was really heavy at that point in time in my life in the military. So,
well, good thing you're still here, man.
Yeah, man, music saved my life for sure.
Well,
for sure.
I guess that's a good question to.
It was a good question.
Break the ice right there on that. But to continue with this, were there specific songs or musical moments that provided you with a sense of comfort or escape while serving when you were doing that?
Man, all of it. It was so great because the difference between being an 88 Mike in my day to day and then being a 9 Victor, which is an Army bandsman, and then 42 Romeo, which is the subcategory, which is Army vocalist.
Definitely.
It was just completely different. For the military in the Army band, everything was so autonomous because the bandsman corps in the military is so small that everything's run in-house. Now, just to give the listeners just a kind of a feel for anything that happens in a military unit, there are a number of different associative classes that do things like sign you out for leave and so on and so forth. And usually you have to go to the battalion to get all of that fixed up. And you really can't do it in-house at your personal unit. But the cool thing about being in the Army band was because we were bandsmen, we had so much autonomy. The unit that we were attached to, they literally didn't bother us at all because we took care of everything ourselves and in-house. So it was I think a stepping stone to open the door that music could be something for me in a real meaningful way in my life. Not that it wasn't, but before it was just like, just stuff that I would do on my own or with the school play or in choir or whatever. It was never me and the music.
And with that, it was never you and the music. What was it? It was you and what?
Well, I meant, with the things that I did before. With the Army band, it was definitely music every day. I rehearsed every single day with my band, and when I wasn't rehearsing with them, I was practicing for things called trials that we would do, where the vocalists every couple of months, they would basically test us to see if we could still sing properly.
Well,
I mean, that sounds weird, but yeah, it's like almost like another audition, only because the Army vocalist at the time was so new that they wanted to make sure we were as studious with our instruments, being our voices, that the other bandsmen were with their tubas or clarinets or flutes or whatever,
Well, how about this? I mean, this is I have these questions for you tonight for the show, but you were leading into my next question.
Nice.
Can you describe how music played a role in building camaraderie or connections with your fellow servicemen while you were doing it?
Wow. Man, these questions are so good.
I take time. To all my listeners that we have out there tonight, especially with me, and we're more than a DJ. We have a lot going on. I take the time to learn my guest. I take the time to understand who they are, because I can't come in here dry.
Right.
Well,
I appreciate that.
Just be all like, what's your favorite type of cheese? Like
Gouda, but yeah.
Oh, okay. There we go. So you know, if you ever do charcuterie and Tui's coming to the party, make sure you got Gouda.
Better have that Gouda
on that charcuterie board. All right.
But getting back to the question,
like I said, like the camaraderie, like the connections, like. And where were you? Because I know you said you didn't serve, but you were still.
No, I did serve.
Well, you served.
I didn't deploy.
Deploy. Sorry.
Right.
Correction.
Yeah.
You didn't deploy. So where were you? I guess stationed in the States.
Right.
Where were you at? So with that, definitely where you go, and especially in the United States, with your subgenres and your culture, were you in the South? Were you in the North?
I was in the South for the majority of my training, but for the rest of my career and what led to the Army band was in Colorado. At oh man, I forgot. Fort Carson. There we go.
Okay, for sure. So what was you being from LA, Anaheim area, what did how was that kind of too, like even like a culture shock with the music? Because we're all raised up like how we're raised up with music, right? Like everything's got their own feel, but what connection did you bring to that base at Fort Carson?
I think it was just being so versatile, because all of the vocalists were black.
Well, there you go.
So,
I mean,
I was the alt black kid. Like I was able to do a lot of the rock songs and do the country songs. Not that my other vocal counterparts couldn't. It was just that their timbre and their voice was very church, was very soulful, and didn't always correlate to the genre of the song that we were performing at the time. So I was definitely the sub-in kid for, you know, songs that were either really high, like Centuries by Fall Out Boy, Sugar by Maroon 5, because I am a first tenor. You can't tell by my voice, but I sing pretty high.
Yeah. And I know too, especially with Love and Laughter and Carice, her being a voice coach and everything too, and all the. I mean, I know a lot of them. I mean, the access to that, and you know, the stuff that you got going on too. I can see that. I believe that. A lot of people though, they go, "Oh, I'm an octo," or you know, this and that. Like, it's like, all right, let's see it. But with your backing, I know you can back it.
Right. But I wanted to answer the camaraderie thing and the culture shock, because there was a lot of both. It was really hard for me to kind of make friends, quote unquote, within the 88 mic community with the truck drivers, because it was very like pretty stereotypical Army. There was a lot of things I didn't agree with. To start off.
I mean,
whereas,
the whole, you know, it could go a bunch of ways. Let's keep it.
I'm not gonna go into detail because that's a whole nother interview right there.
Yeah.
But the camaraderie I found through the music, it was just easier for me to meet people within the Army band community, because again, the Army band is usually small. It's audition only, so if you get in, you know, it's also considered a special duty. It's not something that anybody can just walk off the street and do. So it wasn't the camaraderie in the sense of superiority, but more so in the sense of, oh, you like music? I love music. What kind of music do you like? And it's just an easier way to kind of bridge that gap, rather than being like, you know, on the motor pool being like, oh, this is a truck. Do you like trucks? Like, nobody talks
brother,
like that.
What's up? You know? How's it going? My name's Jim Bob.
No, that's like I said, like, you know, we got these questions. The questions need to be asked. You know, it's the Angelino here. It's Los Angeles. You know, we're diving in, man.
Yes, sir.
Let's get to it, man. And I just want to thank anybody too. If you're just tuning in with us here, we got today's guest, TuiDaShark, all the way from Anaheim, California. Army veteran out here doing his thing, man, making music, living life, and just great positive. Your positivity, man. That was another big reason I wanted to get you out here. One of these first episodes is just like I vibe with energy like that, and that's what we're doing with it, you know. Let's dive back in on here. Yeah. You know,
shark dive.
Hey, TuiDaShark with the shark dive. But Tui, man, did your musical talents ever come into playing? Well, I guess it did with the military. But did it happen in any unexpected ways?
In the military, or just music in general?
No, in the military. Was it unexpected? Like what happened in that 4 years? Were there any unexpected moments that you would have never anticipated?
Absolutely.
If there was maybe one story you would like to share with that?
When I got to perform with my Army band in a stadium.
Oh, and what stadium was this?
It was, it was such a long time ago. It's in Colorado Springs area. I can't remember the stadium off the top of my head, but the cool thing about it was a gang of people, and the local newspaper covered us, and then the Fort Carson newspaper also covered us, and it was me and my sergeant, who was also a vocalist, right there smack dab on the front page. And it was just a really cool moment that I never ever in a million years thought would happen. Number one, performing in a stadium. Number two, my face being on a newspaper. More than one newspaper. It was really sublime.
That's a great accomplishment. I mean, for me, I remember growing up, you make the local newspaper where I'm from, you're a superstar. So it don't matter. You get media coverage, you're doing something right.
Thanks, man.
Continue.
Oh, well, that was the one. You said one.
Okay.
I mean, there's a few, but that one, I think that one's the biggest one for me.
Well, that's always fun, because you know what's funny about this is people with, let me ask you, how many people were in attendance at that stadium?
Oh, wow. So we weren't the only people performing.
Okay.
So I think
was it like a college football stadium? Was it a college football?
It was an enclosed stadium that they used for a number of different things, but people did shows there and so on and so forth. And I remember we were in the center of the stadium and what would be the field, but they had it. It was all dirt floor because they had a lot of different demonstrations there. They had dancers and horses, and so on and so forth.
Multi-use arena.
Right. And I think it was in attendance something around like 6,000 to 7,000 people, something like that.
And has that to date been the biggest crowd? No, you've done bigger?
Yeah.
What's the biggest crowd you ever performed in front of?
I think it was over 15,000 people.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And where was this at? Was this?
This was also with the Army Band.
Army
and
Band.
We did something called a brigade run, which is the entire brigade, all the different units within the brigade get together, and for camaraderie and also for exercise, and then we run around the entire base. We didn't, as the Army Band. We just sat there on stage and sang songs, and we're like, "Go, yeah, woo!" So that was
Man,
cool.
I knew. Well, obviously back in the day with like the military and everything, you got the guys on the drums, like, like
Yeah,
I'm not
like
saying
the battle drums.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, damn, they still got bands in the Army?
Well, it's actually more of a traditional rock band setup, like bass player, keyboards, guitar, drums, you know what I mean, and then
Yeah.
vocalists. And for the Army Band, we just mostly did cover songs. We cleaned some songs up. We've done some original compositions, but they were of pre-existing songs because that was kind of the MO. We weren't allowed to do original songs because we were the Army Band.
Yeah. Well, with what you mentioned, you said at that time you were going through some depression. If you had touched on that, so just kind of wrapping in on the military music questions. Here's the last one I got for you. How is the therapeutic aspect of this music? How has it continued to support your post-military life and your overall well-being?
Man, music saved my life 1,000%. That is not a lie. That's not cap. Music saved me. Music gives me the most authentic expression of myself.
Yes.
And there's very limited boundaries within the music as far as what I can and can't say type thing. So growing up with major depressive disorder, like I've had it my entire life, I just didn't get diagnosed until I was already an adult, and I was just like, I just thought I was really sad all the time. But music has always consistently, even from childhood, always been an escape of sorts. So it's helped me tremendously in a lot of ways. Music has taught me patience. Music has taught me humility. It's taught me so many different things that I can attribute to the successes that I have in my life.
And I can hear that in your music this morning when I was putting everything together. My mornings are pretty scattered. I try to utilize them because that's when I'm at my peak, I say.
Right.
You wake up, fresh brain, cup of coffee, breakfast. And, I put a couple of your songs on while I was working, and I now what I'm hearing, it all makes sense. Just like hearing it in your voice, hearing asking you these questions, interacting with you, that right there, that solidifies what I was thinking, So no, you've been
I like it.
Yeah, no, man. Like I say, we're not coming in here dry. The best way to learn your guest or even just have just a great conversation is you gotta have something.
Right.
You gotta have, you gotta have something to just work around. You gotta have something to do everything with. But, guys, I just want to take time here really quick. You're listening to KQBHLP in Los Angeles, California on 101.5 FM. It's a community service of Boyle Heights Arts Conservatory, broadcasting live on your FM dial and streaming on lpfm.la. And today's guest is TuiDaShark.
What up?
I'm your host, PBP. We're about halfway through today's show. We still got another little great round of whip around questions here, so we're gonna dive in and we're gonna get more into the music right now.
Okay.
So I got some stacked music questions for you. You already liked the military music questions.
I
So
did.
I think I got some good ones. I saved them for I guess I place things how I think they're gonna work out. But,
Word.
We out here. So
I didn't know we were on the terrestrial radio. That's crazy. I'm sorry. I feel kind of silly because I saw the online station and I was like, oh, it's an online radio station. I didn't know there was on the FM dial too.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
we're on the FM dial.
Love that.
Yeah, man, it's all community out here. Boyle Heights.
Heck yeah.
As Mr. Ojude said, it's radio in the hood.
I like it.
All right, guys. So we're gonna dive in here, but just to get into another aspect here, I'm really curious. What inspired you to pursue a career in hip hop after your military service? Was it the band and what you had gained from that 4 years of being in the Army Band?
Yes and no. I think that I gained a lot of great skills from the Army Band, but I don't think the love of hip hop was one of those things. I think that I've always had a love of hip hop. It was being raised in a very conservative household by Republican Christians. I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music or hip hop.
Oh,
So I had to sneak hip hop. So it started as what would become a guilty pleasure, and then teach me a lot more than the scope of what I had access to would show me. So I've always loved hip hop. I I've been a poet my entire life, and to me, hip hop and rap is basically just poetry set to beats. You
Yeah,
know?
I'm learning that. Like for me, music for me, I do my music thing. For me, it's a hobby. I use music to connect with the people I'm involved with.
Dope.
That was my big thing. Was I have a podcast, I have an entertainment company, I have a radio show, I have all these things going on, but anybody can go to an event and say that.
True.
That was the big thing for me. I wanted to, show people I was more than what I was saying I
Right.
was. So that was my first thing. I was like, well, I like music. I used to play saxophone. I played a little guitar.
Really?
Yeah, I have my alto. I still play around, and I'm going to be getting into, I got some producers I work with. I'm going to be doing some just keys, just some basic
man.
stuff for them to record so they can add loops.
Yeah, that's so dope.
Yeah.
Have you ever? I mean, I know it's your show. anyways,
No, that's
but
fine.
I have a question for you.
Oh,
Have you ever,
he's got a question for the host. All right.
Have you ever done saxophone on one of your own tracks?
I actually haven't, and right now, here's the thing with me and my music I was getting into, back off your question, was I use it as a way to connect with people, okay?
Right.
So I played, I was in jazz band from 3rd grade to about 10th grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're good.
Yeah, no, I was
You're sick
I
with
was
it.
lead sax from
Lead
7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then
Let's
10th
go.
I kind of got, that 16-year-old
Right.
kind of get a little weird, so I stepped away from it, but then from
Yeah.
there I was like, I can't leave music.
Right.
So I took beginner guitar my junior year in high school. That was the last music class I took, but I had already, with hip-hop and my influences of the Bay Area and everything, I was like, okay, like, you can do this, right?
Yeah.
It took some time to get out of a funk until I finally started doing all this. Well, later in life you learn, but I've right now I'm in an experimental stage in my music career.
I love it.
Because I'm, I didn't go to school or anything like that. Like my recording studio is a milk crate with the foam inside the milk crate.
You gotta get it how you get it.
Yeah,
you know?
with a USB mic. I mean,
Let's go.
I do what I got to do, but that's how it starts. Like
Exactly.
T-Pain recorded Bartender in like a $40-$50 hotel in Miami, and he had to go around
Wow.
Miami to borrow gear to record that.
That is so wild. I didn't know that.
And
Shout
that's-
out T-Pain, by the way.
Yeah, and like even too, Juice World, All Girls Are the Same. He recorded that in his bedroom with just some basic Windows.
I can believe that though, because
Yeah.
just the time difference between the two artists. You know, what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot more access to technology as far as
Yeah,
recording.
and for me to just get
Right.
back on the question though, have been considering letting a couple people I know, a couple producers record my sounds, but with beats I get, I would like them to be like, okay, I got this beat, I have this, stem.
right.
How can we loop this saxophone? And I'm
Right.
kind of just off rip, with anything.
yeah.
If you have an ear or you do music,
Right.
music is sound, music is percussion.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you could, bang on something and get
Right.
a beat going. You don't necessarily have to have that instrument, and it's just,
True.
it's all sound to ear. And what, with music, the best thing, you think it sounds good? Who cares what anyone else thinks? Because me, I was so afraid of that for years. I didn't
Yeah.
make my first song till I was 25.
Wow.
Literally until I was 25. I had all these great ideas in my head, but I was always like, I don't know if people are going to like this. And that's where I just decided not to do it. It was just, but if you want to get in this industry,
Right.
that's part of it. The constructive criticism, the denial. People for 3 to 5 years are going to look at you weird.
Right. And then
Don't-
failure is part of success. Like,
Exactly.
You need to learn that. Like, you have to learn how to fall down
Yes.
before you learn how to walk.
Exactly, and that's where I'm at. I just had a little, stumble recently in the year with everything. I fell down,
Yeah.
but
You are?
I'm back
You are?
up. I have my daughter who's going to be born here in about a week and a
Hey,
half.
congrats.
Yeah, I'm about
That's
to be a
wonderful.
father, to everyone out there. We might have a little delay in shows for a week or two coming
Hey.
up, but yeah, baby girl's going to be here pretty soon.
Hey,
so
you're about to join the Daddy Rapper gang, bro.
Daddy Rapper Gang, we
That's
out
right,
here.
DRG.
I'm gonna have all the dad puns and everything like that.
It just happens one day. I don't know when I got all daddish, but it happened.
One of my buddies, we'll buy back into a question here.
Yeah.
He's like, when I buy you New Balance shoes and the fanny pack and the cargo shorts, it's over. I was like,
It's the uniform.